Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. Cars begin heading to South Lebanon after ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah comes into effect. Chaos in Pakistan after forces launch midnight raid on ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan's supporters after thousands storm Islamabad demanding Khan's release. US trade partners say Trump's tariffs would harm all involved. Mexico warns it will kill jobs, hints at retaliation. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar attends D7 FMM outreach session on Indo-Pacific, calls for practical solutions and nimble diplomacy. And India's Divith Reddy creates history, becomes world under-8 chess champion. Compatriot Satwik Swen makes a double delight, wins the silver. First up, updates on West Asia conflict. Ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah came into effect on Wednesday. The ceasefire agreement brokered by the US and France took effect from 200 GMT or 7:30 IST, and with that, streams of cars carrying people displaced from southern Lebanon began heading south, while those who had stayed are celebrating the much-awaited development. Earlier, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a televised speech, said that Israel is implementing the ceasefire deal to bring a halt to its conflict with Hezbollah in Lebanon, but will respond forcefully to any violation. He added that the ceasefire would allow Israel to focus on the Iranian threat and intensify pressure on Hamas.
There are three main reasons. The first reason is to focus on the Iranian threat. The second reason is to give our forces a breather and replenish stocks. And the third reason for having a ceasefire is to separate the fronts and isolate Hamas. From day 2 of the war, Hamas was counting on Hezbollah to fight by its side. When Hezbollah is out of the picture, Hamas is left alone in the fight. Our pressure on it will intensify, and that will help us in our sacred mission of releasing our hostages.
Well, US President Joe Biden called the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah good news. Talking to media, Biden said the accord was designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. He reiterated that civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
The fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. What is left of Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations will not be allowed, I emphasize, will not be allowed to threaten the security of Israel again. Over the next 60 days, the Lebanese army and state security forces will deploy and take control of their own territory once again. Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure in southern Lebanon will not be allowed to be rebuilt. And over the next 60 days, Israel will gradually withdraw its remaining forces. And civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
While French President Emmanuel Macron also welcomed the truce, saying that it represents a new chapter for Lebanon. Macron also said the deal should open the path for an ending of the Gaza conflict.
This ceasefire needs to be respected in the long term. In order to restore the Lebanese people's security, the Israeli people's security, permit the safe return of displaced people from these two countries to their homes, and therefore allow the restoration of the sovereignty of the Lebanon. This agreement should also open the path for a ceasefire too, long awaited with regard to the incomparable suffering of the population in Gaza.
Well, Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati has welcomed the ceasefire agreement during a phone call with U.S. President Joe Biden. The Lebanese Prime Minister thanked the U.S. President and French President for the support and efforts made by them. Also, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Tuesday welcomed the ceasefire deal and called for the truce to be turned into a lasting political solution in Lebanon. The UK PM also hoped for a truce in the Gaza conflict. Well, hailing the truce between Israel and Hezbollah, EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen said the deal will increase Lebanon's internal security and stability. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, also welcomed the ceasefire deal, saying it is a relief in the devastating situation in West Asia. He also praised France and the US for their mediation. While hailing the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah, Japan also said it strongly supported the efforts made by the United States and France to broker the deal.
Japan welcomes this ceasefire agreement. It is important to prevent harm to civilians to avoid further deterioration of the situation. Our country highly appreciates the efforts made by the United States and France towards a diplomatic resolution of this situation, and we continue to strongly support it. We strongly urge all parties to fully implement the ceasefire agreement and take all necessary measures to commit to the stability of the region.
Meanwhile, IDF has issued an urgent warning to the residents of South Lebanon after ceasefire came into force. It informed that IDF remains deployed in its positions inside southern Lebanon and that people are prohibited from heading towards the villages that the IDF has ordered to be evacuated or towards IDF forces in the area. It advised that citizens must refrain from moving to the area for their own safety. And DD India's Akshay Dongre joins us for more on this. Well, Akshay, although the world welcomes the much-awaited truce, IDF, on the other hand, has issued an urgent warning to the residents of South Lebanon after ceasefire came into force today morning. How do we see this, and what are the terms of the agreement?
Well, Lipakshi, let's talk about the terms of the agreement first. They are quite clear by all the sides. When the ceasefire agreement was finalized, and as the Israeli cabinet has given its go-ahead for it as well, the terms are that the Israeli defense forces that are present in the southern part of Lebanon will in fact evacuate the region in a phased manner. Now that means that all the Israeli forces that are present in Lebanon right now will return back to the Israeli territory. The Hezbollah, militants that are present there in that particular region will move northwards of the Litani River that divides the north and the southern part of Lebanon, which means that there will be a buffer zone created between the North Lebanon and the Israeli territory that will be the southern part of the country. Now, who exactly is going to monitor this particular region? So the answer that was given in the ceasefire agreement was that the Lebanese armed forces, the Lebanese army, will now move towards the southern part of this of Litani River, south of Litani River. That means that they will be, in fact, manning this particular area, the buffer zone that has been created, along with the international organizations that will be monitoring the de-escalation process. Now, yes, this is a good news as far as the escalation is concerned. Finally, after the escalations took place when Hezbollah started firing or rather intensifying their attacks inside the Israeli territory, or the Israeli defense forces are moving into the country of Lebanon to operate against the Hezbollah targets. It seemed that these operations could spiral out of control, could lead to a much wider escalation of the conflict. Now it seems that there is some hope after all.
Right, Akshay. Also, if we talk about the long-term impact, what will be the potential long-term impact of this on the Middle East particularly, and how the armed groups of factions within the Gaza, such as Hamas, responding to the truce agreement, as the truce will allow IDF to focus more on Gaza and on the Iranian threat?
Well, it seems that there is no local stand-by of rather Hamas on this ceasefire agreement. Yes, you are right that the IDF will now get free hand. Rather, they can now focus on operations in Gaza. In fact, the Israeli Prime Minister has also said that the operation against Hamas inside Gaza will be intensified as their focus now shifts back to Gaza from the southern part of Lebanon and from fight against Hezbollah, be it in Lebanon or in Iran. So now the operations will be intensified. Israel has vowed to continue its operations against the Hamas targets now, but it seems that this is a bittersweet deal that has finally come, especially for Hamas when it comes to the operations are concerned, because now again once the focus will be on Hamas, but that this also means that we can see some kind of de-escalation in the West Asian region now, that includes both the Hezbollah that's operating from Lebanon and the Hezbollah officials that are operating from Iran as well. So finally, some news for de-escalation, but it remains to be seen that till when the ceasefire can be maintained, because it has been clarified from the Israeli side that if there is an attempt to rearm Hamas, if there is an attempt to rearm the region of southern Lebanon, then and if the terms of the ceasefire are broken, then they will again launch their operations in that particular territory.
All right, Akshay. So the big question still remains till when the ceasefire can be maintained. Thank you so much for all those details. And moving on, the deal stipulates a 60-day cessation of hostilities, which negotiators have described as the foundation of a lasting truce. During that time, Hezbollah fighters are expected to retreat some 40 kilometers from the Israel-Lebanon border, while Israeli ground forces withdraw from the Lebanese territory. Under the agreement, Lebanon would implement a more rigorous supervision of Hezbollah's movement south of the country's Litani River to prevent terrorists from regrouping there. United Nations peacekeeping troops, the Lebanese military, and a multinational committee will be tasked with supervising the Iran-backed group's movements. Israel has vowed to resume military operations in case of a breach of the agreement. Meanwhile, unrest in Pakistan is not ready to die down. Rather, it is increasing by every passing day, especially for release of Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Situation continued on Tuesday too, when the capital city Islamabad saw a high-pitched battle-like situation between the protesters and the police. As a report by Akhilesh Suman on the evolving situation there.
Protesters thronged and choked Pakistan's capital city of Islamabad Sunday, demanding release of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Protesters entered the red zone area where Pakistan's parliament, the National Assembly, the foreign embassies and other crucial government offices are located. The situation remained tense on Tuesday also, when at least 8 people, including 4 paramilitary rangers, were killed in clash between security forces and supporters of Imran Khan. Things took a turn for worse when Khan's wife, Bushra Bibi, joined the protest. Khan's supporters broke the barricades and jumped on top of heavy containers and tried to remove any obstacle put on road to stop them. Pakistan's security forces then launched a sweeping midnight raid on Tuesday and arrested hundreds of Khan's supporters, who had gathered at D Chowk in Islamabad, just 250 meters away from the parliament building. While most of the protesters have retreated after the police action, many of them are still around, waiting to regroup in city's highly fortified red zone. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif blamed the protesters for the soldiers' deaths, accusing them of ramming the paramilitary troops with a convoy of vehicles. Sharif added that the violence was driving the law enforcement agencies to the limits of restraint. Police blamed Khan's wife for deaths. However, Imran Khan is not ready to relent. He wrote in a post on social media site X, calling them to continue the fight till the demands are met. Khan's party, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, said that it planned on staging a sit-in in the red zone until the release of Khan, who has been in jail since August last year. Akhilesh Tuman's report for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Trump team signs formal transition agreement with White House after delays. Violent clashes erupt in Bangladesh following the arrest of a prominent leader and his supporters. An Electric Dreams exhibition opens in London to showcase diversification of technology. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. Mexico and China have issued warnings of retaliatory measures, and Canada urged unity as U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's tariff announcements rallied the world markets and unsettled its neighbors and China. Trump chose trade lawyer Jamieson Greer as his new U.S. trade representative, elevating a key veteran of his first term trade war against China. Here's a report.
The leaders of Mexico and Canada have urged dialogue and cooperation after US President-elect Donald Trump pledged to impose 25% tariffs on two countries when he takes office early next year. Trump has also promised 10% additional tariffs on all imports from China. China too responded by saying that economic and trade cooperation is mutually beneficial for both the countries and that no one will win a trade war or a tariff war. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke to Trump on the phone shortly after he announced his plans. Trudeau has since said that he is prepared to work with the US in a constructive way.
I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
The other neighboring country, Mexico, also urged caution. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said neither threats nor tariffs would solve the issues raised, and also warned of retaliatory tariffs on US imports if Trump goes ahead. She said that she is planning to write to Trump, stressing the need to work together on joint challenges.
To one tariff will become another, and so on, until we put our common businesses at risk. Mexico's main exporters to the United States, which came to Mexico 8 years ago, why put a tax on them that puts them at risk? Why put a tax on them that puts them at risk? It is not acceptable and would cause the US and the Mexico inflation and job losses. I think that there's going to be an agreement with the United States and with President Trump.
No es aceptable.
During highly charged presidential campaign, Trump repeatedly promised increased tariffs on all imports into the US. Team Trump portrayed the tariffs policy as a key tool to bring back jobs and manufacturing from overseas. However, the experts believe that the new tariffs can have serious implications not only for the US, but also for the global supply chains and companies that do business with some of the world's largest economies. Trump made his threat in social media posts announcing 25% tariffs against neighbors Canada and Mexico and also 10% additional tariffs on China if they don't stop illegal immigration and drug smuggling into the United States. Bureau Report, TD India.
Well, President-elect Donald Trump on Monday pledged tariffs on the United States' three largest trading partners, Canada, Mexico and China, would affect a wide range of industries, including oil, natural gas, agriculture and manufacturing, potentially altering long-established trade patterns and supply chains. Now let's take a look at the commodities and energy sectors which may be affected. In the oil sector, Canada exported some $177.19 billion in energy products to U.S. in 2023. Crude imports from Canada make up more than a fifth of all oil that U.S. refineries process. About 70% of imported Canadian barrels go to Midwest U.S. refineries. Many of those would struggle to find a direct replacement for Canadian oil. In 2023, Canadian crude oil exports to U.S. were above $110 billion. Now let's take a look at the GS imports into the U.S. U.S. imported about 8.5 billion cubic feet per day of natural gas during the first 8 months of 2024 from Canada and Mexico. Most of this year's gas imports, about 8.4 BCFD, came via pipelines from Canada. Coming to agriculture and farm products now, U.S. imported $40.1 billion of Canadian agricultural products last year, making Canada the second largest origin of U.S. agricultural imports behind Mexico. United States imported nearly $6 billion of Canadian livestock products last year. Canada also supplies the United States with nearly half of its imports of vegetable oils and lumber and other forest products. Further, U.S. imported $45.4 billion of agricultural products from Mexico in 2023. About two-thirds of all U.S. vegetable imports and half of fruit and nut imports come from Mexico. Sugar is another major agricultural produce that is traded between the neighbors. U.S. imported 521,000 short tons of sugar from Mexico in 2023 and 2024 under a bilateral trade deal that reduces the import taxes on sugar from Mexico. It was nearly 15% of all U.S. sugar imports of 3.76 million short tons in the last season. Also, U.S. imported about 13 million tons of potash last year, of which 85% came from Canada. Well, Trump's tariff plans seem to gather further momentum on Wednesday, with his transition team signing a memorandum of understanding with the White House, allowing him to formally begin his transition to power. This move will allow Trump's intended cabinet nominees to coordinate directly with federal agencies and access documents. Trump, a Republican, will take office on the 20th of January. It is not entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Justice to allow the FBI to conduct background checks of nominees. The transition team said it already has existing security and information protections built in, which means they will not require additional government and bureaucratic oversight. Trump's team also broke from tradition and did not sign an agreement with the General Services Administration that would provide the use of office space. And updates now from Russia-Ukraine conflict. A Ukrainian delegation led by Defense Minister Rustem Umerov is visiting South Korea this week for weapons aid. As per reports, the group was expected to meet their South Korean counterparts as early as Wednesday, while a spokesperson for South Korea's defense ministry declined to confirm whether a Ukrainian delegation had arrived in Seoul during a regular media briefing on Tuesday. The delegation had met with South Korea's National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik to exchange views on the conflict in Ukraine. Earlier in October, South Korean broadcaster KBS mentioned that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said Kyiv would send a detailed request to Seoul for armed support, including artillery and an air defense system. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the United States is continuing to surge security assistance to bolster Ukraine's defenses in the East after meetings with a group of 7 democracies on Tuesday.
The U.S. is continuing to surge security assistance to bolster Ukraine's defenses in the east and to respond to the escalation by Russia and, in particular, now the involvement of troops from North Korea. And let me say on that that this is a matter of grave concern for all the members of the G7, both because of what it means for Ukraine, what it means for broader European security, but also what it means in the Indo-Pacific.
Well, Peru's Congress removed Energy and Mines Minister Romulo Muco from his post amid protest from small-scale miners. Peruvian small-scale miners have been demanding a 2-year extension of a program that allows them to operate temporarily. President Dina Boluart must accept Congress's decision within 72 hours and appoint a new Energy and Mines Minister. A government bill sent to Congress last week gave small-scale miners a 6-month period to formalize their activities after the current program expires on December 31st, but miners say that is not enough time. Well, French farmers gathered on Tuesday in Strasbourg to protest against a Mercosur trade deal while the EU Parliament was holding a plenary session. A convoy of about tractors drove close to the EU Parliament building after the police allowed them near the EU institution venue. A trade agreement between the European Union and Mercosur countries has recently triggered protests from EU farmers. The agreement would also give EU farmers increased access to South American markets, which could boost exports. The French National Assembly debated on Tuesday on the proposed EU-Mercosur free trade agreement, and EU lawmakers will today debate the future of farming and agriculture. And moving on, arrest of Hindu leader Chinmoy Krishnadas Brahmachari has evoked unprecedented turmoil in Bangladesh, where the interim government is already grappling with demands for elections by Bangladesh Nationalist Party. The interim government said he was arrested on sedition charges and bail was denied to him. Well, on Tuesday, the roads of Chittagong, a port city of Bangladesh, were full with supporters of the Hindu monk. They demanded release of their leader, who was arrested on charges of sedition. One Muslim person was killed during clashes between the police and the protesters. Brahmachari, spokesperson of the Bangladesh Sammelito Sanatan Jagran Jot group, was arrested as he travelled from the capital Dhaka to Chittagong on Monday. Bangladesh government, instead of regretting over the unnecessary harassment of Hindus after Sheikh Hasina government fall, has arrested the Hindu monk who had raised voice against increase in targeted atrocities against the community. Meanwhile, the harassment of media personnel is also on increase in Bangladesh. Groups of people on Monday attacked the Pratham Alo newspaper office in Rajshahi and demonstrated in front of Pratham Alo in Dhaka on Sunday and elsewhere in the country. Last week, they also demonstrated in front of the Daily Star. And some weather-related updates now. The deep depression over the southwest Bay of Bengal is expected to develop into a cyclonic storm by tomorrow evening. Sri Lanka's Met Department issued a warning of deep depression located about 240 kilometers southeast of Trincomalee on Tuesday. Heavy thunderstorm showers with very heavy showers above 200 millimeters are forecast in most places of the island. Sri Lanka's National Building Research Organization has issued red notices for several divisional secretariat areas in the Kandy, Matale and Nuwara Elia districts. And London's Tate Modern is set to open the doors to its newest exhibition named Electric Trees, Art and Technology, showcasing artists who pioneered the use of machines and algorithms to create mesmerizing and mind-bending art before the internet age. The exhibition will feature a diverse range of works that explore how technology could transcend traditional forms of art, offering a glimpse into the diverse technology. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Stay with us to get the details of what legislative business will be taken up in both houses of Parliament today. Boosting India's deep tech and quantum ecosystem, 8 quantum technology startups selected for support. And IFFI is paying tribute to Bollywood's iconic stars who are completing their 100 years today. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the G7 FMM outreach session with Indo-Pacific partners in Fugi on Wednesday. He noted that the Indo-Pacific is experiencing significant changes, including new convergences and partnerships, as well as anxieties, frictions and stresses. He said that the region's landscape today creates a compelling argument for a wider collaborative approach. In fact, Jaishankar highlighted 6 key responses required in the Indo-Pacific region: more collaborations in areas like maritime, semiconductors, supply chains, etc., more resources, both to support greater activities and projects as well as to avoid bad borrowing and unsustainable debt, more capacities in fields like governance, health, technology, disaster resilience, and natural resource management, more interoperability and burden sharing to service the global commons and contribute to global good, respect for international law as well as for mutuality of benefits, more options so that Indo-Pacific policymakers are able to make the right choices. Well, in an era of collaborative endeavors, the Indo-Pacific will require practical solutions, nimble diplomacy, greater adjustment and more open conversations. The G7 can be one such partner. Also, on the sidelines of the G7 foreign ministers meeting, Jaishankar held important discussions with his counterparts from the US, Italy, South Korea and Japan. The minister met US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Jaishankar, and said both sides are stronger when they work together. Two leaders discussed the importance of continued close cooperation to promote global security and prosperity. Dr. Jaishankar also held a warm meeting with Italy's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani. Both sides discussed opportunities in technology, innovation, clean energy, fertilizers, railways and investments. They also exchanged perspectives on IMEC, Ukraine and the Indo-Pacific. The recently announced Joint Strategic Action Plan guides our activities. Look forward to welcoming him in India in 2025, he said. On his meeting with South Korean counterpart Cho Tae-yul on X, the minister said he appreciates growing convergences on the Indo-Pacific, vibrant economic partnership, strong defense ties and active tech collaboration. Also sharing the details of the meeting with Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya, the External Affairs Minister said that the two nations exchanged views on advancing our strategic partnership and cooperation in Indo-Pacific. And now let's give you some Parliament updates. The lower house of Parliament will take up the Banking Laws Amendment Bill 2024 for consideration and passing. The bill will be moved by India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. India's Railway and I&B Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw will move a bill further to amend the Railway Act 1989 for consideration and passing in the lower house. The Bharatiya Vayuyan Vidhayak 2024 and the Oil Fields Regulation and Development Amendment Bill 2024 are the two important bills that will be taken up in the upper house of the Indian Parliament for consideration and passing. And for more, we have Vishal Baristo joining us on this. Well, Vishal, what all is expected from the Parliament proceedings today?
Well, a very good morning to you, Lipakshi. When we talk about the parliament, we saw that on day one, no business could be transacted because of the ruckus created by the opposition in both the houses of the parliament, and the houses were adjourned till Wednesday. So today, we expect the opposition to participate in the parliamentary proceedings, and as I speak to you, Prime Minister has reached the parliament and he will be going to the lower house. So there are some interesting issues if we talk about the lower house. As you informed the viewers that the finance minister would be introducing a bill on the banking amendment, and it's a very important bill because there were a lot of problems faced by those whose parents had died and who were the nominees. But now after this bill is passed in the lower house and then goes to the upper house, it would be people would get an option of at least 4 nominees for the fixed deposit thing, so that if the account holder is dead, then there are 4 nominees. 2 can be together and they can be an equal distribution of funds. And the second important bill which is up for discussion in the upper house is the amendment of Indian Aircraft Act 1934, which would provide better streamlining of the framework that governs the Indian aviation industry, and also modernize the framework, because there were a lot of complaints by the air passengers because of the delays by the aircraft and not being informed properly. So there were a lot of hassles because of the weather conditions, but we hope that when this bill is passed, there would be a huge relief for the air passengers. So these are important things, but the opposition is also geared up for a lot of many things. They are still insisting a joint parliamentary committee probe into the Adani financial irregularities which has been alleged by the US court, though reports are there that the nephew of Mr. Adani has been cleared by the District of Justice US in the alleged irregularities. So it's let's see if the opposition participates, but the opposition in its meeting, they've decided that they want a discussion on the Manipur violence, on the Sambal violence, and a joint JPC probe in the Adani issue. And also there are other issues as well which the opposition wants to draw the attention of the Treasury. For day one, there was no business, and we are hoping that some business will be transacted on day 3, because yesterday was the Constitution Day.
All right. Thank you so much for that update from there, Vishal. And moving on, India leads the world in cooperative movement with a share of 25%. However, for the first time in International Cooperative Alliance's 130-year history, India plays host to the global event. The ICA Global Cooperative Conference 2024 will enhance the visibility of Indian cooperatives across global platforms.
Well, it's terrific to be here. It's wonderful to have the cooperation of IFCO, our very generous hosts, in organizing this event. Above all, for me, so far, it's been a chance to find out something about the cooperative movement in India. You know, I knew the sort of grand lines of the movement, but it's different to be here, to hear people speak, and to find out the particulars about cooperatives in India. So, for example, I had no idea that of the 3 million cooperatives in the world, 1 in 4 is right here in India. It's terrific.
We are very much excited to be here in India. In fact, this was long overdue. India being forced to reckon in terms of cooperative development in the world, not only in Asia-Pacific. Definitely we're supposed to have been here even before this 30 years. So it's good that we have started coming. We are here, and it was a great opportunity that is coincided with the International Year of Cooperative. So it's really a very huge and big opportunity for us to know what first-hand people are doing in India. We already knew about it from other sources, but for people to see it and also to celebrate with the other cooperators worldwide.
Yeah, it's really great and wonderful opportunity, and I really thank the people, cooperators in in India and the whole movement. I was impressed with the yesterday's kickoff event. There was Mr. Prime Minister Modi was there, and he talked about the cooperative, and the cooperative is a really great achievement in this country, and for like 30 minutes, and I think his passion and his own words really impressed us, and I really realized, and also that this is a cooperative country.
Well, India is taking a giant leap in deep tech innovation with the selection of 8 quantum technology startups under the National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical Systems and the National Quantum Mission. The announcement made by Dr. Jitendra Singh, Union Minister of State for Science and Technology, marks a pivotal moment for India's quantum ecosystem. The comprehensive guidelines aims to nurture startups in this cutting-edge field, offering resources, funding, mentorship and infrastructure. And India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati launched its own OTT platform Waves, offering a broad spectrum of entertainment and news content. The app is now available for download on Android and iOS devices. The platform aims to cater to a wide audience with its mix of live channels, movies, TV shows, games and live events. Here's more.
The 55th edition of the International Film Festival of Goa kicked off in grand style with the launch of many firsts and new initiatives in order to cater the global cinema market. And in a significant development for the Indian digital media landscape, Prasar Bharati's much-awaited OTT platform went live during IFFI with its official launch at the prestigious international festival.
As the audiences have discovered the newer media of consuming content, digital is one medium which has gained quite a lot of prominence in these days and times. So it is only fitting that Prasar Bharati also forays into this domain. And one of the advantages of this would be also that the content would be available to all audiences, even if they are in the remotest parts of the country or even outside the country. There is a lot of demand for Indian content across the board, across the world. The Indian settlers in various countries also remember their times here in India through these programs. And of course, they want to keep updated with the news, with the entertainment of Indian origin. We will also be making provisions for sharing some of the informative content that is being produced by the ministries of Government of India, by various state governments, and some rare archival material of photographs, of magazines and journals and e-books. We would also be providing facilities for e-games. So, e-shopping, which is also gaining a lot of prominence these days, is also going to be a part of Waves. So there is something for everyone, and I would request the audiences to download Waves later today and be a part of this experience of this entertainment की नई लहर.
दूरदर्शन तो हमारे खून में था, अब वेव हमारी सांसों में होगा. मतलब अच्छी बात है. इनसे सारी चीजें बहुत जगह सिनेमा पहुंचती हैं.
Prasar Bharati's OTT platform is poised to offer a diverse range of content, including live channels, archival footage, and original programming to the audience. The platform also focuses on family-friendly content, aiming to provide a wholesome viewing experience for audiences of all ages. Talking about the benefits of content creators, interestingly, the content creator will retain the IP rights. The OTT platform further aims at creating a marketplace to showcase its vast archive of over 2,000 titles, including a treasure trove of heritage photos. Deepika Mehto's report for TD India.
This is a preview file. The mobile app can be downloaded on the smart TV via a QR code. To download Waves on your smart TV, viewers need to scan a QR code with their mobile and Waves account subscription that will reflect on their smart TV.
And moving on, Indian Meteorological Centre predicts of heavy to very heavy rainfall with extremely heavy falls very likely to batter isolated places over Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Karaikal. Possibility of heavy rainfall to also batter isolated places over Kerala and Mahe, coastal Andhra Pradesh and Yemen and Rayalaseema. Alongside dense fog and squally weather to cover isolated pockets of Himachal Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi and Uttar Pradesh in night and morning hours. And still to come in DD India News Hour. Sri Lanka Cabinet approves the 19 billion rupees supplementary estimate. Cricket fraternity remembers Australian batsman Philip Huggs on 10 years of his tragic passing. And stay with us for a quick glimpse of American Railroad music performance in New York.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kurana. On to some business news now. Sri Lanka's cabinet has approved the presentation of a supplementary estimate of 219 billion rupees to Parliament aimed at funding key expenditure items, including a 130 billion rupee interest subsidy for debts assumed by taxpayers. The allocation will remain within the approved expenditure and debt limits for 2024. The cabinet has also approved the presentation of an interim budget for the first 4 months of 2025, as there was no time to present budget 2025 due to dissolution of the parliament in September. The interim budget is part of a broader plan to ensure the continuity of government operations while preparing for the full 2025 budget. While the Central Bank of Sri Lanka announced the introduction of the overnight policy rate at 8%, this shift in the monetary policy marks an effective reduction of approximately 50 basis points from the current average weighted call money rate. The measures aim to stabilize prices while supporting economic growth. From November 27th, the OPR will replace the dual policy interest rate system, phasing out the standing deposit facility rate and standing lending facility rate. Further, the central bank said the inflation is expected to remain negative in the short term, but is projected to rebound by mid-2025, gradually aligning with the 5% target. New Zealand Central Bank cut the cash rate by 50 basis points to 4.25% on Wednesday. Country's annual inflation ran near the 2% midpoint of its target range and economic activity remained subdued. This follows a similar move in October. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand is now forecasting the cash rate to be at 3.8% in the second quarter of 2025 and at 3.6% in the fourth quarter of 2025, suggesting more cuts than had been expected in August. Government says economic growth is expected to recover during 2025 as lower interest rates encourage investment and other spending. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. 8-year-old Divith Reddy created history on Tuesday by becoming a world champion in the Under-8 World Cadet Chess Championship in Italy. The Hyderabad's chess prodigy accumulated 9 out of a possible 11 points, the same as his compatriot Satwik Swen. However, Divith clinched the gold based on his superior tie-break score, and Satwik settled for the silver medal. Divith, who has a FIDE rating of 170, 784 points, prevailed, overcoming a three-way tie against compatriot Satwik and China's Ziming Yu. Making a rollicking start to his campaign, Divith won his first 4 matches, but a brief slump followed with 2 consecutive losses. However, he bounced back in the tournament, showing his mental strength to win his final 5 rounds and secure the top spot. And the second game between Gukesh and Ding Liren at the 2024 World Chess Championship ended in a draw after 23 moves on Tuesday. The two players made a draw by 3-fold repetition in Singapore. Both the players will return to the board for Game 3 on Wednesday. A total of 7.5 points from across 14 games are required for either player to claim the championship. A win garners 1 point, a loss equates to 0, while a draw shall reward both players with 0.5 points each. As of now, Liren is leading in the championship 1.5 to 0.5. If the match ends in a tie after all 14 games, a tie-break will be held the following day to determine the winner. And a confident India, coached by PR Srijesh, will start as firm favourites when they take on Thailand in their opening match of the Junior Asia Cup men's hockey tournament on Wednesday. India have been placed in Pool A along with Korea, Japan, Chinese Taipei and Thailand. With 10 teams participating in the event this time, the remaining 5 teams in Pool B are Pakistan, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Oman and China. India have won this tournament for a record 4 times, including in 2004, 2008, 2015 and 2023. They beat arch rivals Pakistan 2-1 in the final last year to lift the title. And the route for the Winter Olympics flame was announced by the Milano Cortina 2026 Organizing Committee in Milan on Tuesday. The flame's route will take 63 days with 60 stops in Italy itself, taking in all 110 provinces, covering a journey of over 12,000 kilometers. The flame will begin its journey on November 26, 2025 in the Greek city of Olympia, before arriving in Rome on December 4th. The torch will then be carried by around 10,000 people through Italy before finishing its journey at the San Siro Stadium in Milan at the opening ceremony on February 6, 2026. Well, the World Athletics President Sebastian Coe said on Tuesday that he welcomes India's bid to host the 2036 Summer Games, calling it a strong candidate amid New Delhi's growing presence in the Olympic sports movement. Coe, whose grandfather was Indian, met Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia in Delhi, where the prospect of India's bid for the 2036 Games was discussed.
Very pleased that countries that have the passion and the commitment and the capacity, like India, and there are other countries that are bidding as well, want to present, want to deliver an Olympic and Paralympic Games. That is a very good sign for the movement. Bidding for an Olympic Games is not easy. It is hard. It is competitive. And the delivery of a Games is even tougher.
And today, that is 27th November, marks 10 years of the tragic passing of Australian batsman Philip Hughes. Hughes passed away just at the age of 25 and only 3 days short of his birthday. Hughes was up and against his old teammates from New South Wales, and he was batting on 63 when he was hit by a delivery bowled by Sian Abbott at the Sydney Cricket Ground. It resulted in a bleeding of the brain, and Hughes underwent emergency surgery, but all efforts went in vain. Boasting some fine techniques and perfect timing, Philip Hughes represented Australia in 26 Tests, 25 ODIs and 1 T20 International. Hughes scored 63 in his final innings against New South Wales. And the Grammy and Pulitzer-winning artist Rhiannon Giddens has long made music that sheds light on America's untold stories. Her recent performances shine a light on the immigrant communities that played a pivotal role in the construction of America's railroads, a crucial chapter in the nation's history. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.